Well, I'm going to read from the Gospel of Jesus Christ according to John. I'm going to read from the 13th chapter. After Judas had left, Jesus said, "Now the Son of Man's glory is revealed. Now God's glory is revealed through him. And if God's glory is revealed through him, then God will reveal the glory of the Son of Man in himself. And he will do so at once. My children, I shall not be with you very much longer. You will look for me, but I tell you now what I told the Jewish authorities. You cannot go where I am going. And now I give you a new commandment. Love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. If you have love for one another, then everyone will know that you are my disciples." In the short passage I just read, Jesus gets straight to the point. He knows that he's soon on his way to the cross, and so he leaves his disciples with one last command: love one another. He doesn't speak to them in parables. There are no paradoxes in what he says. He simply gives his disciples the order, love one another. As one New Testament scholar, D.A. Carson, observed, this new command is simple enough for a toddler to memorize and appreciate, yet it is profound enough that most mature believers are repeatedly embarrassed at how poorly they comprehend it and put it into practice. How embarrassing it must be for many of us who call ourselves Christian that we cannot focus on this one simple thing. In fact, we have found so many other ways to identify Christians other than doing the one simple thing Jesus commands: love one another. Take note, Jesus never talks about the importance of the Bible. He never mentions the value of a carefully constructed creed. In fact, the New Testament itself will not even be written until 2 to 3 generations after Jesus' death. And it will take some 350 more years for a bunch of squabbling theologians to hammer out the Nicene Creed. It's sad, really. The Bible and the Creed will become so very important to Christians over the years, yet the one thing that was most important to Jesus would get lost. Although people will ultimately fight wars over who held the correct beliefs, this was not Jesus' main concern. Jesus' way was the way of children, not the way of learned theologians and intelligent preachers. My children, he said, I give you a new commandment, that you love one another. Commandment is not about what you believe, it's about how you live. In her book, The Spiral Staircase, Karen Armstrong, she's one of my favorite authors, notes that in most religious traditions, faith is not about belief, but about practice. Religion, Armstrong writes, is not about having to believe or accept certain difficult propositions. Instead, religion is about doing things that change you. It's about doing things that change you. And this came home to her, especially when she wrote her first book on Islam. Muslims, she came to understand, are not expected to accept a complex creed. Instead, they're required to perform ritual actions such as the Hajj pilgrimage and the fast of Ramadan, which are designed to change them. Muslims are required to prostrate themselves in prayer, facing Mecca, several times a day as an act of surrender. Muslims are commanded to give alms to the poorer and more vulnerable among them as a way of cultivating the kind of generous spirit that makes them want to give graciously and generously as God does. And Armstrong says that these repeated actions are intended to lead to personal transformation. Religion is not a belief system, but a process, she says. A religious life, be it centered in Christianity, Islam, Judaism, or any other major world faith, is designed to make people act in ways that are supposed to change them forever. Now, the Christian religion, of course, has its own share of ancient practices and rituals. Rituals that are designed to shape our lives in the image of Christ, right? We have them. Unfortunately today, though, and I've noticed this especially over the last few years, many Christians are more concerned about who is orthodox and who is progressive in faith than whether or not we demonstrate the love of Christ in our lives. Look at all the hoopla within our own church, the United Church, around Greta Vosper, and all that's happening there. Remember, Jesus didn't say, "They will know you are my disciples if you believe the right things." He said, "If you have love for one another, then everyone will know that you are my disciples." There's a baroness, Karen von Blixen-Finnicke. She wrote a book under the pen name Isaac Dinesen, and the book is called Out of Africa, on which a famous movie of the same name was made. You may have seen that movie, Out of Africa. Well, in the book, there's a story about a boy named Kitao, who appeared at the author's door one day to ask for a job as a domestic servant. She hired him, but was surprised when after 3 months, he asked her for a letter of recommendation to Sheikh Ali bin Salim, a Muslim who lived in a nearby town. Dinesen offered to raise Kitao's pay in order to keep him, but money was not his interest. Kitao had decided to become either a Christian or a Muslim. And his purpose in working for Denison had been to see up close the way a Christian lived. Now that he had worked for Denison and had seen the ways of Christians, he would go and observe Sheikh Ali to see how Muslims behave. Then he would decide. The author remembers how she wished Kitao had told her that before he came to live with her. Jesus knows he's on his way to the cross. He knows he won't be with his disciples for very much longer. No more parables. No more paradoxes. Just a simple command. Love one another. For if you love one another, then everyone will know that you are my disciples. And the people said,